You're listening to World of Empowerment Radio, your station for practical spirituality in a changing world. And here are your hosts, Aingeal Rose and Ahonu.
You're very welcome. I am Ahonu, and this is my lovely Aingeal Rose. Aingeal Rose is telling me to take off the sunglasses. The reason I have them on is because we're in Arizona, and it is not only extremely hot, but also very, very bright. So here you go. There are my blue-green eyes. When Irish eyes are smiling.
That's right.
Now, we want to talk about something that's been happening these last few days. Everybody is aware of the submersible issue with those millionaires going to the Titanic. And it's not something that we want to necessarily spend a lot of time on, except that for Aingeal Rose, it had a very interesting intrigue, and she reacted to it. So when something like that happens, we always investigate it, don't we, Aingeal Rose? Because when something impacts us, whether it impacts us mentally or physically or emotionally, it's telling us something. And so Aingeal Rose's reaction was very telling. So tell us what happened, Aingeal Rose. Tell us go back to the beginning of it first, when you heard about the expedition in the beginning.
Well, I was obsessed with, kind of like how I was obsessed with Chaco Canyon. Remember, Hannah? When I watched a video on Chaco Canyon, and it was such obsession that we ended up going there.
We had to go. That's right.
So
yeah.
It was the same kind of reaction with this Titan submersible. You know, well, the whole thing about the Titanic ship itself has always intrigued me. So I've just assumed that I was on it because the way that I'm, fascinated by the whole thing.
Right.
But anyway, of course, like everyone who was listening to the newscast about this Titan, everybody was hoping that these people would be found, and they wouldn't end up like they ended up, right? So after it was all over, I found that I still couldn't stop thinking about it. So I decided to do a quantum jump into the Titan. But my question in my jump, or my intention, was, what's going on here? Why am I so obsessed with this? Okay.
Right. Let me just interject real quick, because many people may not know what a quantum jump is. It's something that we do all the time, and we do it in our workshops, in our classes, and so on. And really, it's like a guided hypnosis, in a sense, that you are guided to enter into a hallway, and then you jump through a quantum door to fulfill whatever your intention was. And that intention could be anything. We've used it to go to past lives, future lives. We've used it to go to historical events. We've used to talk to council. We've done it. We've used it for a lot of things. But so Aingeal Rose's intention was to go to the...
Well, my intention was, why am I so obsessed with this whole situation?
Right.
Okay. So it wasn't like I was in deep grief when I heard that these gentlemen had passed away. It wasn't a sad emotion for me. It was just what's going on here? And from the very beginning that this whole thing started, I do remember telling you that this is karmic. Remember, Mohammed?
Yes, yeah.
So whatever's going on here with these guys in the Titanic and the Titan, this is a karmic issue. Even though I didn't know what it was exactly. So when I went into the jump, okay, I immediately saw everyone who had actually died on the Titanic ship itself many years ago was one huge soul group. In other words, all those people knew each other on a soul level. So it was a major soul group leaving the planet. Okay, and what I saw further was that soul group had been originally from Atlantis. And it looks like when Atlantis was destroyed and all those souls got scattered all over the place, some went to different parts of the earth, some people died, that soul group had been fragmented. Okay, they were no longer together.
And when you said they were from Atlantis and they died in the Atlantic.
Oh, they died, yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's just an interesting observation.
Yeah, so anyway, so what it looked like was that the people on the original Titanic ship were those people from Atlantis who perished at that time as a soul family. And the Titanic allowed them to all congregate together in one location, and knowing they were on a soul level, they were going to die together. So it allowed them to kind of regroup for that soul family to come back together. So the people dying on the Titanic were a soul family that was reunited, let's just say, okay? So I felt that these 5 gentlemen were part of those people on the Titanic also. Either they didn't die then, do you understand, but they were still part of the same soul family.
Right.
So this time around, and they had to wait for this time around to do this because we're in a karmic cleansing cycle with the earth right now. I mean, this is what sources told me. We're in the great cleanse, which means anything unresolved, any karmic issues we've had, anything that isn't complete, this is the time for it to be completed.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting as you speak, Aingeal Rose, and I'm just making this observation, that the name of that Titan company was called Oceangate. And to me, it's like as if now, in hindsight, it was a gateway of some kind for those individuals.
It was.
Right.
Yeah, so this whole thing, no matter how it looks, no matter how the media and everybody else wants to point out all of the things that were wrong with the Titan, things they didn't do. Why didn't they have this? Why didn't they have that? But they weren't meant to, because this was the time for them to leave, those people to leave the planet. And actually, when I was watching all this, I also heard this very soft voice say, there are no victims. And it was like a reminder, like, oh yeah, we're not victims of anything. Everything that happens in our lives, we set up. It's all set up by our soul. And it was just saying that to remind me that this was a soul setup for these individuals. Okay, so this was the way for them to reunite also with their soul family, because they did not die when the Titanic ship went down. Okay, but they were part of the soul family. So this was a way for them to reconnect and completing this karmic cycle, because my feeling was that this soul family, they didn't get to complete their mission in Atlantis, because Atlantis was destroyed. And further, they didn't get to complete it when the Titanic went down, but the Titanic going down was just a way for them to reunite with each other. Because when Atlantis happened, they were scattered all over the earth. Okay.
Right.
But further than that, it brought up the issue of when we do talk about things that supposedly weren't done correctly, like on the Titanic, they didn't have enough lifeboats, for example, for that amount of people. And with the Titan, they didn't have a transponder, and they didn't have little things that would have connected them to the surface.
Right.
But when you just look at that aspect of it, the other karmic lesson in here is one of power. I said, this is how we use power. This is the big lesson in the whole thing. And this is what we're in as part of the Great Cleanse. We're in how people use power and how power is being used, because obviously when you look at everything that's going on the planet, with governments, with the climate, everything, we're not using power correctly.
We're not even using our own personal power correctly. And it's funny, let me make another observation, because the very name Titan was like a god displaying great power. So the name itself even insinuates power. It
does. And of course, they've made comments about how you can't not acknowledge the power of Mother Nature. In other words, you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. So I started thinking, okay, well, it's obvious that Mother Nature has incredible power. And we saw that during the lockdown. Remember, hon, we were in Ireland at the time, and we were locked down, and nobody could go anywhere, only maybe a mile out of the house.
Right.
But we noticed within a week, like the air had cleared in Ireland, the waters were getting clear in Ireland. So like nature was taking care of her own regeneration at that point.
Right.
Okay, it's like if you took human irresponsibility out of the equation, okay, nature just regenerated itself. So it made a point to say, like, wow, we are in a very surrounded by nature, and it's super powerful. So but it got me asking, what is power really? And what is our power? So I did another jump after that, wanting to explore what power was. And when I opened the door, there was a huge sunburst, and the rays of the sun kind of like hit me, were shining on me. So the answer I got was, it's the sun. You know, the true power is in the sun. But behind the sun, was just a wall of light. So it was like it was saying, well, true power is light. You're made of light. But then again, the second power is the sun. And the sun all of a sudden I zoomed in on the sun in my mind. And it wasn't a bunch of gases like they say. It was just all these colors, these beautiful colors swirling around. But the message was, it has everything in it for life. If you didn't have the sun shining on you, you wouldn't have life on this planet. Okay, so it is the giver of life. So, and interestingly enough, you know, that solar plexus part of ourselves in our stomach area is called the solar plexus, the sun center.
The seat of power.
Yeah. And it reminds me, years ago when I think I told you, when I would babysit children, I'd have a little art project for them where I would draw 7 circles on a page, which represented the chakras, and I'd give them a crayon for each chakra. And so everybody drew their pictures inside the circles. But the one consistent thing was the solar plexus chakra. In other words, children drew all kinds of things in the other chakras, which made you know what was going on with them and their families. But in the solar plexus chakra, they either drew the sun or they drew a flower consistently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, so that was telling me the sun is the seat of power, and in our bodies, it's as we have our own central sun in our solar plexus.
And even as children, they recognized it. They understood it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that leads me really to the conclusion of this, because in the next video, we're just going to go into the power of the sun and why why light and the sun are considered the true power in this world, and how to use them correctly. So that will be our next video, huh?
Okay, so there you go.
But I think I wanted to share this because I wanted the whole idea to be reminded that we're not victims in this world, and everything that happens to anybody, no matter what it is, good or bad, is organized by their soul. And this experience with the Titan is those 5 people on a soul level were part of the original soul family from the Titanic and from Atlantis, and they were needing to get back to their group. And this is why this happened.
Wow. Well, there you go, folks. That seems to knit it all together and make sense of the whole drama. So until next time, blessings from myself, Ahonu, and from my lovely Aingeal Rose.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and on our website at worldofempowerment.com.
Don't miss an episode. Hit the subscribe button now.